What's up guys, today we are in the 2024 Ford Mustang EcoBoost Premium Convertible. I've been living with this car for the past few days and I'm going to cover some of the things I like and dislike about it. This is of course the new S650 generation of Mustang, which is largely based on the outgoing S550, but it does have a few changes on the exterior and interior, a massively upgraded infotainment system. This one is powered by the 2.3 liter turbocharged inline-4. It makes 315 horsepower, 350 pound-feet of torque, and this particular spec weighs a little over 3,700 pounds. So certainly not a lightweight, nimble sports car by any means. That's not what anyone is buying an EcoBoost Mustang, especially the convertible, for. But let's talk about if it's actually any good to drive and how it is to live with on a daily basis. This car has an MSRP of around $49,000. It is pretty heavily optioned. It has the $3,000 201A equipment package. It has a $1,200 active valved exhaust and a couple other things that bring it from its roughly $41,000 starting price for a premium EcoBoost convertible up to its price of $49 grand. So let's talk about the first thing I like about this Mustang, and that is the technology. Even a base EcoBoost Mustang non-premium coupe, the lowest trim level and cheapest Mustang you can buy, comes with Ford's Copilot 360 suite of driving aids. That gives us things like lane keep assist and a number of other standard features. But this one, because it does have the performance package, it does add one really cool feature, which is stop and go adaptive cruise control, meaning it'll actually automatically come to a complete stop in traffic and resume once it detects the car in front is moving again. But if we go through this list of driver assistance features, we have adaptive cruise control, speed limit assist, lane keep assist, pre-collision assist, exit warning, rear view camera, cross traffic alert, cross traffic braking, and that should make this quite an easy car to live with on your daily commute. And I can confirm, after using all of these systems over the past few days, it does help this car be a pretty usable daily driver. A couple of other things, by the way, that the premium package gives us: a single pane of glass that connects these otherwise separate touchscreens, one for your gauges, one for your infotainment. The premium package also gives us these heated and cooled synthetic leather seats that are power adjustable. We also get a speaker upgrade to 9 speakers from the standard 6. And we have lamps under either door that will project a Mustang logo when you walk up to the car. Pretty gimmicky feature in my opinion. But I guess if you want to deck out your Mustang to the fullest, that is one thing that easily differentiates a premium from a non-premium. The second thing I like about this new Mustang is actually the exterior styling. I'm actually not a fan of how any convertible Mustang looks. I would much rather have this car as a coupe, but I will admit that the styling changes to the front and rear end are much appreciated. The rear taillights look really sleek and modern while also being a little bit retro, and the front end of the car looks really nice and aggressive. I love the aggressive headlights and the more angular shape. So the third thing I like about the new Mustang EcoBoost is the performance, and I'm talking primarily from a straight line perspective, because ultimately this is a pony car. It's supposed to be quick in a straight line. And this one is, even though it carries over the same 2.3 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder from the last generation, it's definitely still a quick car. 0 to 60 in right around 5 seconds, I believe, for the convertible. But I know that Car and Driver tested an EcoBoost coupe at 4.5 seconds to 60. That is properly quick for a car that starts at just over $30,000. Of course, the coupe is also a couple hundred pounds lighter than the convertible, so if you care about straight line speed, the coupe is going to be the one to get. Unfortunately, the car I'm driving is not equipped with the performance package, but if you do opt for that, you do get a Torsen limited slip differential, a shorter 3.55 final drive instead of the 3.15. You also get Brembo brakes, and crucially, MagneRide dampers. I'm really sad that this press car does not have that option. Always been a huge fan of MagneRide as a sort of daily drivable yet still performance and fun-oriented suspension setup. The base suspension is so-so. It rides fine. It's definitely not a weakness, but it just feels like, you know, a cheap $30,000 car's suspension. And now the fourth and final thing I like about the Mustang is the efficiency of this EcoBoost model. With this 2.3 liter turbo, we're looking at 22 miles per gallon in the city, 33 miles per gallon on the highway, or around 26 mpg combined. Now that is with premium gas, but in the 4.5 hours I've spent with this car, I've averaged around 25 miles per gallon, but I know I could get closer to 30 miles per gallon if I really tried. So with those out of the way, let's talk about the things I don't like about this car. Number one is the price. And when I say price, I mean specifically about EcoBoost Premium Convertible with all of these options on it. This car just does not feel like a $49,000 car. For 49 grand, I would expect a nicer interior. But for closer to $30,000, which is the price, again, that this Mustang starts at, without the premium package, without all the options, and as a coupe, you would get a few downgrades. As I said, you'd have separate displays here instead of this single pane of glass. You'd have cloth manual seats, but the overall build quality wouldn't be that different, and it would make a lot more sense at that price point. It's crazy to me that going from a coupe to a convertible adds about $5,500 to the MSRP. That might make sense in the world of Porsches, but for a Ford Mustang that starts at just over $30,000, an extra 5.5K is no small sum of money. I guess if you really do want that drop-top experience, you'll be willing to pay for it, but for me, I would much rather get the coupe. Looks better, it's gonna have better NVH on the inside, and it's just so much cheaper and lighter weight. Now the third thing I don't like about this Mustang is the sound it makes. Listen to this. We'll put this thing into track mode, which opens up that exhaust valve completely. With the valves open, it just has a sort of cheap aftermarket exhaust on a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine kind of sound quality, if you know what I mean. I just think it's a bit drony and unpleasant, and definitely not worth the over $1,200. And look, this is more my own personal preference and principle, but I don't think I would ever buy a 4-cylinder pony car. I would just spend the extra dough and get the GT, because that's the one I really want. But that's kind of beside the point. And that brings me to the fourth and final thing I don't like about this Mustang, which is the fact that for the new S650 generation with the EcoBoost engine, they've taken away the manual transmission option. It's more just a sign of the times than a ding on Ford, but they could have done something a little out of the ordinary for 2024 and actually offered a manual transmission with the base engine Mustang. But instead, you get the new 10-speed torque converter automatic as the only transmission choice. And I have mixed feelings about this transmission. I do appreciate the fact that the gear ratios are really close together. It's easy to keep this engine in its power band, especially with the amount of turbo lag that you get from this highly boosted 2.3 liter. Having long gear ratios probably wouldn't help the straight line acceleration. However, when I have this car in the track mode or even the sport mode, which is slightly less aggressive, the transmission sometimes gets a little confused, a little bit flustered. The shifts are actually relatively smooth and quick, but the transmission shift logic definitely leaves a little bit to be desired. If you notice here, there are no paddle shifters on the steering wheel, and there's no way to shift manually between the gears sequentially using the actual gear lever. In other words, there's no way to control what gear you're in. Listen to that drone. We still have the exhaust in track mode. The one thing I will say about this transmission is that in track mode, it will downshift pretty aggressively, which is nice. So what happens if we put it into sport mode? By the way, there's also a drag strip mode, which does apparently shave a couple of tenths off your 0 to 60. So in sport mode, the exhaust is still loud, but definitely quieter versus track mode. The shift logic is somewhere in between normal and track as well. It'll still downshift, but it'll let the RPM fall quite a bit lower before it does that. There's no steering feel whatsoever from this EPS. Look at this, just off center. There's several degrees of play where absolutely nothing happens in the front end. Not to mention, this car does have brake-by-wire, which works fine in daily driving conditions, but when you start to drive a little bit more aggressively, there just isn't much feedback through the pedal, and the overall bite and modulation of that brake pedal is pretty inconsistent. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think of the new S650 Mustang, especially the EcoBoost trim. The Mustang GT, I'm sure, is a much more enthusiast-focused vehicle, especially with a 6-speed manual transmission. Again, the S650 is not all that different from the outgoing S550, so all of the high points, I would imagine, would still carry over. Thank you guys for watching. A big thank you to Ford for providing this Mustang for review, and I'll see you all in the next one.